Welcome back to the We'll Get You Home show. I'm here with Dave and Jackie, and they're of the real estate team with Relocal Real Estate in Kennesaw, Georgia, North Atlanta area. They've been in the business for 35 plus years, a long time, and we're going to talk to them today about inspections. How's that sound, guys?
Yeah. And when you say 35 plus years in the real estate business, some inspections seem that long too. It can.
We'll get into all that, but first, I want to ask you about 2023 specifically. It's a competitive buyer's market. There's not a lot of inventory. Is an inspection, a home inspection, when you do finally submit an offer, is it necessary still today to get an inspection?
Short answer, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Still want to know what you're buying.
Yeah. I mean, in a competitive environment, competitive real estate environment, we especially saw this in late 20 and then going into 21 and early 22. There were a lot of buyers who wanted to make their offers stand out and say, okay, we'll waive the inspection.
Right.
We didn't let any of our clients do that. We told them no way, no how. We don't have to make the purchase, subject to the inspection, but you need to have the inspection. Even if it meant you're walking away from some earnest money, you're looking for deal killers in an inspection. So and the whole legal tort of buyer beware, that exists in Georgia and in most states. So
can you go into detail a little bit about the buyer beware? Sorry to cut you off, but I think that's important.
Well, the law surrounding that is you have to do your own due diligence when you're purchasing a piece of real estate. So it is very, very difficult to prove negligence or intent to cover up a problem on behalf of the seller. The seller could always say, I didn't know. And if you don't get an inspection, you can't prove that they knew. So that's the whole buyer beware caveat. So it's very, very important.
And I'll add to that. And sometimes the sellers don't know, and they need an inspection to even be aware of it themselves.
And that is true, but everyone thinks that someone's out to get them. A month later, 2 months later, they find termites, or they find, that the foundation is shifting. They're going to say they knew about that. Well, they might not have known about that. So buyer beware, get your inspection done. So yes, in this environment, in any environment, it's important to get an inspection done. Even if you're still going to buy the house, at least you now know what it costs. We're in a deal right now up in Hiawassee, Georgia. As far north in Georgia as you could go before getting
right. That's quite the distance you guys are traveling up there.
We are. This is a fun one though. This piece of property is one in 37 years of real estate. It's one of the most unique properties I've ever seen. I mean,
yeah, it's incredible.
It's an incredible piece of property, and really, really one of ours. But in the inspection with At Ease, by the way, who we love as an inspection company, Ryan found some issues, with this house that required further evaluation. So we're having a structural engineer come in to look at, patio, quote unquote, foundation issues, but really it's outside of the foundation, it's the patio, and some deck issues, and a little driveway issue, that we found. And so we want to have a structural engineer come in, and we know there's a problem. The question is, how much is it going to cost to fix the problem?
Right.
And that's really what the buyer needs to know. Is this a few $1,000 fix, or is this, like you said, $100,000 fix, Abby? It's just, those inform you as to how much you want to take on. So that's the purpose of an inspection. And sometimes, a much more involved inspection, like with a structural engineer.
Right. You'd hate to get further down the line and then realize that you made a bad investment. And then you're out a lot more money if you actually go through with it instead of getting the inspection and knowing beforehand.
and money you may not very well have, and
Mhm.
you can't borrow that money typically
Right.
to do, repairs.
So it's
So
important to know first before you go forward. That's good. That's very helpful.
absolutely.
And I like to use inspection reports as a checklist because I love checklists.
Right.
So checklist of what to do when you actually do buy the house. These are the things that need attention, whether you want to do them or not. It's up to you, but
Absolutely. So that leads a little bit into my next question, which is, as a buyer, when you do get the inspection and you get the report back, what is it, what's okay to ask the seller for, and what do you kind of leave alone so the deal will go through? Or just in your experience, I know you probably can't answer for every buyer, but what would your advice to a buyer be as far as the things that you push for and the things that you don't?
absolutely, you have to have door stops.
That's a joke, right?
Yeah, yeah. Door stops, and every plug needs to not be cross polarized. Yeah. We try and tell our buyers, our purchasers, again, to look for things that cost thousands, not things that cost tens or hundreds.
Mhm.
Especially in this competitive environment, people don't want to be nickel and dimed, by this nail pop, or that small little area of wood rot beneath one window that can be, covered with some caulk and some paint.
Mhm.
They don't want to be bothered. They just want an easy deal. But in my experience, even in a competitive environment like that, sellers want to know about and want to take care of things that are safety issues or that are structural in nature, because they're gonna, if you back out of the deal because of a structural problem or a mechanical problem, like the heating and air system, is 25 years old and it's rusted and it's releasing carbon monoxide, into the house because of a crack danger. They want to know that, and they don't want to be responsible for killing your family when winter comes on because of a cracked heat exchanger.
Right.
And so the things, in my opinion, that are okay to ask for are the things that are structural in nature or that are safety related.
Mhm.
You know, an electrical issue. You found wires in the attic that have been gnawed on by rats or mice. That can cause a fire. And you need to be able to address those type things. And by the way, the seller always has the right to say no.
Mhm.
You can ask and they can say no.
And sometimes you don't even have to ask. Sometimes they get the report and they're like, oh, I didn't know that was a problem. And I want to provide a good product for these people.
Best
So
case
they-
scenario, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of psychology, associated with an inspection. People have lived in this home for a long, long time, and we all know we get comfortable in our homes, and we tend to let things go until we put it on the market, and then we handle all of the cosmetic stuff.
Right.
I mean, one of the things Jackie loves to say about cosmetic stuff is, if you're going to do it, might as well do it and enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. I've had so many clients say, man, there was that spot on the ceiling for 15 years. I looked at it. I wish I would have done that 15 years ago.
Yeah,
So
or
wait, what's
even,
the saying? If you're gonna do it,
you might as well enjoy it while you're living there versus waiting and doing it for someone else.
right? That's
Right.
yes, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, flooring. Oh, I wish we had done, this LVP flooring, 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Right.
They come in and they do it, usually at our suggestion. Listen, let's just do LVP. Everybody's going LVP. Let's do something that everybody, will love. It's neutral and it'll work. And you could pick a carpet that no one likes, but everyone's liking a hardwood look LVP that's pretty much industry. And we literally, for our clients, started a company to where we could do LVP for them, at pretty much our cost, just as a service, to make their home. Number one, sells for more money,
Mhm.
and we can get it to them for a better cost. So then what they can,
And I know this has nothing to do with inspections, but it also brings up a point, like get in touch with your realtor when you think about moving, which might be a year or 2 years ahead of time, so we can advise you.
Right.
So you do get to enjoy those floors
Absolutely.
or the color of
Yeah.
the walls or.
Yeah.
but as far as what to ask for, it's a great question. It really, talking to the listing agent will help inform you on that as well. If the listing agent tells you, listen, we put it on a rock bottom price, they're not doing anything to this house, which, by the way, this house in Hiawassee, that's exactly what the agent said. Now, that could be true, or it could be, negotiating before the negotiation starts. You don't know until you ask.
Right.
And in this case, we're probably going to come out of this with, listen, leave some furniture in this mountain. It's more like a mountain chalet. It's not a house. More like a chalet. It's
Or maybe
big,
even
but
almost a castle.
it's kind of castle-like. The thing is massive.
We're gonna have to get some pictures of this.
Oh
when
yeah,
you're describing it.
We'd love to
Everyone's
share.
gonna want to know what it looks like.
Yeah, if we get the deal done, we'd love to share those, and maybe
Absolutely.
a future thing we can talk about, unique homes or something.
Yeah, we'll come back to it for sure.
But this, this particular property, is very unique, and they're saying we're not doing anything, and now we found some pretty significant things that I think they thought these deck issues were cosmetic, and they're not. They're structural in nature, and I don't
Right.
think they know about them.
Yeah.
And so we'll find out. Maybe we'll have something for a future show to say, this is what happened in the Hiawassee house, negotiation. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And as for the sellers, if you're a seller in this competitive market, we talked a little bit about negotiations. What do you even have to negotiate at all in this market? What do you advise your sellers if you're the listing agent when the buyer's agent comes with things that they want fixed? What's your procedure on that?
Depends on if you have backup offers too.
Right. Yeah, our philosophy on real estate, and it goes throughout the whole process, whether it's the price, paying closing costs on behalf of a buyer by the seller. It all comes down to try and create a win-win situation. I've always said you want the seller, and we're talking about sellers here in this question, but seller, I didn't get as much as I wanted maybe, but I'm good. I got more than I thought, but not maybe as much as I wanted, but I'm good. The buyer, you really want them to say, I might not have gotten it for what I wanted, but I feel like I paid a fair price. There's got to be some compromise.
Right.
A little bit on each side, or there's no win-win. And if there's no win-win, you usually don't get to closing. You have to have both of them feel like they're pretty happy.
The best closings are when both sides of the transaction are smiling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they're able to communicate amongst each other at the table and give tips and little tricks about the house.
Right.
And the vast majority, a lot of this comes down to the agents who are representing their client. Vast majority of agents are very similar to us in that they're looking for a win-win situation. I've run across, the thousands of deals I've done in my career, I've run across some agents that are really win-lose. I'm going to hammer your seller and you as the agent, and you're going to like it. Those deals have never gotten done. I've
Just
never
the tough negotiation tactics, or
my client wins, your client loses, and that's the only way we're going to get this deal done. And I'm a pretty laid back negotiator. Those are the times I found myself yelling at agents on the phone. Just say, this is not going to work. Who do you think you are? Type of thing. But that's such the minority. That is not the rule in real estate. Most agents are just fantastic.
I think most industries have a few of those, and then the majority is I think for the vast majority of people, you want a win-win situation, to both feel good about what you've done.
So going to the question of what should the seller give, again, I think it kind of comes back from our perspective. If we're representing the seller, we're trying to advise them as to, okay, this thing has been revealed. Let's say it's that cracked heat exchanger, or it's an excessive crack, on the walkway, and the walkway settled, it's creating a trip hazard, and there could be liability there down the road. Or would you want to be responsible for that when you find out, that little Kathy, 5-year-old Kathy, tripped and put her face plant into the steps because of that? Let's fix that.
Right.
Let's
Besides
do
that,
that.
they're probably still living in the house. Do they want to live in a house with a cracked
Right. Yeah, going back to what you said about,
Yeah.
enjoying the place and fixing it while you're living, not just for the next.
Well, and it's going to show up on the next inspection.
Mm-hmm.
If these people walk, then and exit the deal, go find something else. The next people who buy it, it's going to show up there too, and it's going to be like a bad penny, just kind of keeps coming back to haunt you.
Yeah.
And, so you might as well go and do it.
Besides that, if you know about it, now you have to disclose it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Next time now you have a disclosure, which kind of brings up, maybe another question. I don't know if this was maybe a next question you were thinking
No,
of.
just continue, please.
Should the seller and the selling agent, listing agent, want to get that inspection, from the buyer and the buyer's agent? Because now you are responsible for anything that you find.
Mhm.
There's a school of thought there. I'm of the opinion, depends on the day, but I'm of the opinion that
Jackie's nervous.
I kind of want to know, what's going on with the house.
Yeah,
But there's a side that's like, if I do know, that I'm responsible
and
for
you're
it.
responsible.
That's right. There's accountability there, and accountability is important.
And then, except bank-owned properties.
Correct.
Bank-owned properties, if you have an inspection on a bank-owned property, they will not open up the email if you send them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so disclose on, for people who may not know, I'm not even sure I know, what's a bank-owned property?
A foreclosure.
Foreclosure, okay.
They call them REOs, real estate owned by
Okay.
the financial institution.
Okay.
And so they take those back, and then they turn around and find an agent, and they put it back on the market, and they don't want to know anything.
Okay.
They basically, that is a true buyer beware situation. They're not disclosing anything. They might fix some stuff if you bring it to their attention in an amendment, but they're not looking at the inspection report.
Right. So what do their disclosures look like? Do they disclose anything, like when on
No,
the listings? Is it just as
no,
is?
that's right.
Number of bedrooms and bathrooms.
It is where is, as is, and all you get is what's called administrative information. Bedrooms and baths, square footage, by the tax records, because they're not going to send an appraiser out to measure it. They are just going to give you the basic information, school districts, anything that the agent can provide. But you got to remember, the financial institution, the bank, they never lived there.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew that the REO administrator, they got a file one day that says, we now own this property, get it sold. So, and they're usually in another state. They're not in your state.
Do those sell quickly?
I'm sorry.
Do those sell?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
how do they get away with that? This might, I don't, as I'm thinking about it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why wouldn't sellers just do that same thing? How do the banks get away with not disclosing anything? Or
Because the banks don't have any knowledge.
oh, because they don't live there. That's
right.
Answer my question. All right.
That's right. Yeah, they don't have any knowledge of the property. The
Right.
seller does. And by the way, sellers can get away with doing the exact same thing if the property has been a rental property for 2 or more years.
Oh, okay.
Then they can say, I haven't lived there in the last 2 years. I really don't know what could be wrong with the property, other than maybe what I have fixed in the past as the tenant has called me.
Right.
I know I put a roof on 2 years
Right.
ago.
Okay.
They can disclose what they know, but there's a lot of I don't knows on a seller's disclosure from a landlord, who's selling a property that they own and have been leasing for the last 10 years or 20 years. They don't know intimately what's wrong with that property.
I think that's interesting, because even if you do live in a house, like you were saying, sometimes until the inspection, you don't know
Right.
certain things. So it's a little bit of crossover with like the what am I trying to say? Crossover with how it's presented with the banks and the rental properties and then the seller living there, and how different they are, even though the seller might not know a bunch of things as well.
I think most homeowners, there's the exception to the rule, but there's probably 20% of the homeowners are they're almost like inspectors themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there looking every weekend, for what they can do to improve their property and fix their property. 80% live in their property and they take care of emergencies.
Right.
Mhm.
It doesn't work, then I'll fix it.
Yeah, if it
Right.
if it breaks, I fix it. If it leaks, I'll fix it. That's what they're. If it doesn't turn on, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're just going about their lives and maintaining the basics, but taking care of emergencies as they happen. And I think that's the vast majority of homeowners. So
Putting out fires.
I'm sorry.
Putting out fires.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they're firemen.
Yeah.
They're putting out fires, and so you got to give most home sellers grace.
Oh, absolutely.
And and then walk them through it. Great, didn't know about this, now we know about it. In order to get this deal done, we're probably going to have to do something, and sometimes you can do this. A lot of people will say, a lot of our sellers will say, should I leave the washer, dryer, refrigerator? Well, a couple of years ago we would say that's really going to help sell this house because you couldn't get a washer, dryer, refrigerator, supply chain issues and all those kind of things. And so we would say, yes, but we're not going to tell them we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because we knew things were going to come up on the inspection report. I mean, the house could be perfect visually, but something was going to come up, and it was probably going to be somewhat major, couple of thousand, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, something like that. And we would say at that point, offer back to the buyer, tell you what, we'll leave the washer, dryer, refrigerator, and you take care of the things after closing. These things don't prevent you from moving in. They're not dangerous. You get your handyman, you can hire, you can control them, and you pay them, when you're satisfied with the work, and we'll give you these appliances in lieu of repairs.
Okay.
So that's something that that buyers can look at. We could ask for those things up front, and the seller's probably going to say, no, I'm going to take them with me. But then take those things in lieu of doing the repairs. And by the way, it kind of brings up another point. Should you let the seller do the repairs, or should you do the repairs yourself and get a concession so you can pay for those repairs? And our preference is to get the concession and let our contractors do the repairs, because we know the contractors, the plumbers, the electricians, and the framers, and the handymen, and we know they'll do a good job for us because they've done a good job in the past, and we control that, versus letting the seller do it and you come out to inspect it on the walkthrough the day before or 2 days before, and it's not up to the buyer's satisfaction.
Right.
And now we have a problem. 2 days before closing or 3 days before closing, that
2 hours.
2 hours, sometimes 2 hours before closing, and that's not good. And so we like controlling the repairs that come up as a result of an inspection and getting a concession, even if it means the seller paying that contractor, outside of closing, to get a repair done, of course, with lender approval.
I was going to say that could be another topic, lender approval.
With lender
Let's
approval,
not get too far off, but
and I did that just for liability purposes.
that's good.
But you want to make sure you control the repairs as much as possible.
Okay.
I mean, there's sometimes something so major is there that you could say, listen, there is a cracked heat exchanger in the heating and air conditioning. We're going to send our contractor out to quote it, and we want our contractor to replace it before closing. and the seller says, okay, and we control the process at that point,
Mhm.
but it's been done before closing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, that has been very helpful. Lots of information on inspections, things that even I did not know. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. If you want to get in contact with Dave and Jackie, I'll put their information below, but they're in the North Atlanta area. So if you're looking in North Atlanta, even up to Hiawassee, apparently they will drive a couple hours for you just to get the deal done, but it has to be a chalet, right?
Well,
It
not
has to be worth
necessarily. Not necessarily.
it.
Listen, we love selling real estate, so
Right, right. No,
makes sense. We'll go.
But
absolutely.
I'd like to say in general, why do you have an inspection? It's for
Yeah.
peace of mind.
Peace
Right.
of mind.
Peace of mind is the main reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a fantastic day and we will talk to you next week.
Abby, thanks so much. We'll get you home.
No problem.